So, yeah, we're a little bit behind, so whenever you're ready, Randy.
All right, what time is it?
It's
6:35.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll call the meeting of the planning commission together. It's 6:35, and I'll have, you want to go ahead and call the roll, or you want me to?
I just write it down.
You want to write it down?
Yeah. I've got it written.
You already got members present?
Yeah.
All right. I guess the first order of business then, we'll go to, we didn't call the roll, so we'll have the old business, and we'll have a review of the minutes from November 16th, 2023 meeting.
You all should have a.
You want me to read it, or you gonna read it?
It's however you want to do it. If you want to just vote on it as
is.
typed.
I've read them.
Yeah.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay. Motion is made by
Margaret.
Margaret Arndt. I got a second from,
You want a second?
I can second.
Ready for a vote, Randy?
Hmm?
We're ready for a vote.
Okay. You ready for a vote? Margaret? I'll vote aye.
Aye.
And I guess we're going to, the next thing is new business, and that'd be public comment.
I just stopped by and see what's going on.
Looks like a night.
How many members y'all got now?
5.
5? Okay. Who's the zoning officer? They got one yet?
That's me,
That's him.
Chris Cheney.
Chris Cheney. Are you kin to the Cheneys over on Hatton Creek? Okay, I
My
thought
dad's
maybe
Gary.
you, huh?
My dad's Gary.
Okay, I thought maybe you might be.
Yep.
I just seeing what y'all doing and checking. I had never been to one of the meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Yep.
I might come back and see you again.
Well,
That's fine.
Please
that's
do.
all right. I mean, we got Mitchell anymore. He's coming and video, kind of like all the meetings, and you know, if you want to watch them, they're out there for you.
Okay.
More-
Makes
more-
it nice.
I need a pen, Chris.
I've lived in Stanton for 60 years. I know pretty much all about it. I can tell you a lot of tales about it.
One way or the other, then.
So much good and so much extra good. But y'all go ahead.
Well, thank you for being here.
Okay, and the next thing is, I guess, is discussion regarding the 179 to 231 West College Avenue subdivision.
Okay, so, and then did I send you all an updated one? I probably didn't give you one.
You didn't, I didn't have one.
I added the other thing to it. Okay, so I don't have anything, like, nobody submitted anything, but I did want to let you all know, the surveyor came in and talked to me about, I guess I can pull this up, maybe you can look at it. They're looking at creating out of 2 lots at the, trying to think how to,
Kroger.
yeah, the big parcel at Kroger and the smaller parcel in the front where Joey's muffler is.
Is that where the
And these, they're gonna create.
RVs are?
Yeah, basically where the RVs are, they wanna create a 1 acre parcel. So they're gonna have to do a minor subdivision. So, let's see if I can figure out how to zoom on this.
Is Dawson still on that?
Yeah. So what they're wanting to do is, like, right in here, make a 1 acre square. So the surveyor come in and talked to me, and I told him what all he needed to do. But then what I explained to him, this parcel is zoned B3 highway commercial. The rest of it's zoned B2. Yeah, B2, I think, or B1. I don't remember off the top of my head. But if they create this parcel, what's going to happen is it'll be 2 zonings. So I told him, I said, they're gonna have to go through the minor plat process, but then they'll need to probably rezone that parcel, so it's got one zoning. Which I think all that'll kind of be a formality, but it's gonna end up being whatever it is they intend to do with that property would be what would determine the zoning that they would need to go to. I just kind of want to let you all know that that's coming. I don't know when it'll be, but they're working on it.
Where is the store located on that, on the,
Kroger?
yeah, the store?
Kroger's down here. So it's like where he's got the RVs, it's roughly that area. And the way the surveyor explained it to me, it was just gonna be a square. But now I haven't seen anything, he didn't have any kind of drawing, but that's kind of how he explained it to me. So I just kind of want to let you guys know that was coming, if you hear anything about it, or if you know, once we're ready to get to that point. And what I may do, it wouldn't be inappropriate if, depending on what their plans are, to have like a pre-development meeting, and usually that'll be like, it would be like me, the chair, and if we got anybody else involved, to sit down and talk with them about what they're gonna do.
They haven't said, Chris, what they're wanting to do?
No, no.
But are they gonna go out where the muffler shop is too? Is that gonna be part of it, or just?
Well, it affects this parcel because it's taken part of it, but I don't know that they're gonna do anything. I really don't know what their plans are.
Do they own that lot where Mufflers, George Mufflers?
Yeah, it's all Dotson
It's
management,
theirs.
yeah. So the other thing that, depending on what they want to do, there could be, you know, they might need to do a little bit more in terms of like showing us their plans. So I don't know, when he comes in, I'm gonna ask him a lot more questions, and, you know, at some point I'd probably need to talk to the owner and find out exactly what the intent is. That way I can direct them, you know, most appropriately which way to go and all that. But just kind of want to give you all a heads up on that. The other thing, which isn't on this, I forgot to reprint this, is the Pay Lake. So this is Church Street, this is Breckenridge, this is Maple Street. Does that kind of all make sense? This is the Red River Pay Lake. It's currently in the process of being sold. And the appraiser had contacted me about the property and what was going to. Apparently there's some issue with the buyer is going to use a VA loan, but it's commercial and residential, so the VA won't let them do a loan for all of it. So basically what they were asking is, could they subdivide it, or did they need to subdivide it? And then I had recommended that if they do, they need to subdivide it on the city limits boundary. That way there would be a parcel totally in the county and a parcel totally in the city, and not one that straddled the city limits boundary.
Can I speak up here?
Yeah.
That property's not in the city. Did they put it back in?
It's in.
The reason I know that was my son-in-law owned it. He owned that property, and the city land, it's never gone through there. I don't care what they got up there. They brought the stuff and showed, I don't even remember who was on city council years ago, but that is not in the city. He has no city, he has city water, but they pay for it, but there's no sewer or nothing out there.
Everything I can find shows
It's not. I can tell you that right now. You better go back and go to the big and go.
It wasn't in there.
Huh?
It hasn't been in there for years.
No, it's not in the city. And actually, you go right straight across over, but over where the house is, my brother owns the other piece over, and that ain't in the city either.
I know, he came in and
But no, John, that boy of mine owned that. He's the one sold it to that boy. Soon be 2 years ago, and he is not in the city.
But based on the surveys and the Secretary of State and everything, it shows the boundary about right there.
I'm telling you, they done too many times. They passed this out a long time ago, and actually, the road that goes down through there
Yeah,
is a county road.
right.
Yeah. and they hashed that out. They wanted to open that up, but they can't open it up. I mean, for other people go on through, that goes on down through the old Arnett farm, goes out right out the back door of that, yeah. They had around a lawsuit on that, and sometime when Billy Joe Martin was the county judge here.
Well, that would have had to go through Faulkner to get
Oh.
part of Mars's farm.
Yeah.
When would the lawsuit have been?
That's been back sometime in the late 70s, early, I can't remember when Billy Joe was in.
Been a long time.
It's been a long time, yep.
I was on the council 8 years altogether, several years ago, and it wasn't in the city then.
No, I'm telling you.
Somebody put it in there.
Whoever put that line in, I don't know where it come from, but I do know when John bought it, it was never in the city. Gary was never in the city, and they tried to get him to do something. They tried to have John, he was gonna have to do something, and they showed that gone, his deeds and everything, if he's not in the city.
But everything I can find shows that it is. And I mean, if there's a court case, then that would be definitive, but I don't.
So, I'm just, before they ever get into this, I can tell you, that piece of property is not in the city.
Well,
Maybe they got it in the city after.
I mean, unless they got it put in after John sold it. But when John owned it, it was not in the city.
we'll see
That was the old what was the name of them people lived there?
I can't remember what their name
But
is.
they used to live in a big old house right down on Breckenridge Street, right there in that curve where the blue house is right now. They own a big house there. And then it all growed up for years. Eunice Crow bought that farm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sure did. But it was never in the city. I don't know what they're trying to do or going to do, and I'm not trying to tell you
right.
that.
Well, I mean,
I'm just telling you that it was, as of 2 years ago, it was not in the city.
what I've told them is everything that I see shows it's in the city. And Larry Drake, the buyer, it said that he had been told that there was a court case. Well, I asked Scott about it, and Scott says as long as he's been the city attorney, there wasn't. Well,
Well,
Larry thought it had been more recent.
The court case was about the right of way for the county road that went through there. And then that's what I'm saying, the county road is still right there. I mean,
Right.
It
You
goes-
can see the road.
huh?
You can see the road.
Yeah, it goes on through, yeah. It goes down to
to the river.
Morgan Tipton Farm.
Yeah.
It goes all the way down, and it joins my brother, and both of them, it used to be the Orville Arnott Farm. And it went all, say if you go down to the end of that, there was actually parts of the old bridge, the county, for 213.
Right.
Yeah. But no, that farm, that piece of property, I think it's 13 acres or something like that, John had in there, and it was not in the city. He never, I mean, there was no, he didn't pay city taxes, it wasn't in the city, I mean, it just wasn't.
Well,
So,
He don't pay city taxes?
huh?
John don't pay city taxes?
He sold it, but no, he wasn't in the city.
You can go back on the tax record, can't you, and see where it hasn't been
but
paid.
all the tax record proves is that they weren't assessed the tax. It that doesn't necessarily say it's in or out.
Jay,
I mean,
young man, you'll find out there's a lot of hairy stuff going on in this town down through the years.
I'll tell you what, I can tell you, if you really want me to tell you what that line is going across there, that's the flood zone.
No, that's where it was surveyed. Like
Well,
that yellow
I'm
line.
just, I'm just telling you, that's where they went because they used to say that wasn't in the flood, everything above that wasn't in the flood zone.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but like I
I mean,
said,
I'm just kind of giving you a heads up that,
Right.
that it wasn't in it. I know, because he owned it for several years.
Yeah.
And Eunice Crow owned it before that, before he passed away. Then John bought it off his wife.
Yeah.
And she's dead now. There's nobody.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I tore that back room apart looking for
Well,
anything I could find, and everything I found showed the boundary there. Everything. FEMA maps, state transportation maps, every city map I found, every one of them going back to the 70s shows that boundary right there.
Well, all I know is they never put that piece of property in the city.
I don't know what to do about it. Like what I told them is I have to give you the answers based on what I have, what the information I have. And I told Larry, I said, if there's evidence of a court case, you give me a court case, show me. I mean,
There's something, I don't remember what it was, but there's been 2 or 3 things that happened over that, getting space over the right of way of the old road especially.
right.
It's the county, it is a county road, and it used to be open, blah, 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 but if you drive down through it, it's got a fence or 2 on down in there, I mean, so you can't actually go on through it.
Right.
But I don't know what you tell them people. I do know that whenever he owned it, he wasn't in the city.
Right.
Cause he had to put his own sewer system and everything in, that was.
And,
Would Frankfurt have any copies of that?
well, what Frankfurt would have would be the maps that I've been looking at.
That you're
The
looking at.
transportation cabinet map that shows it there and the FEMA maps and basically what Frankfurt had would be what the city gave Frankfurt and said this is our boundaries. The Secretary of State is the keeper of all the city limits. They supposedly what's on file with the Secretary of State is the official city limits, which is based on surveys that were done. And if you look at the surveys, it's that. Now, there's a conflict because some of them show Gary's out and some of them show Gary's in. So, it's a mess. It's a big mess all around.
I do know that something happened. I could ask John, he'd tell you that there was something going on there, and I know he had come before the city some time ago over him being in the city when he wasn't in the city, and I know I'd say there's a record should be in the minutes somewhere about that. But he wasn't in the city.
Has it just been 2 years since he sold the property?
It'll be 2 years. I guess it's been 2 years
They
this
said,
March, I
the
think.
owners now said 2.5 years. They
Well,
had
time gets away from it. It may be going on 3 years, but
that's what she said when she was.
he sold that in March, and it may have been 2.5 years ago. Maybe 3 years, and this is coming March.
Yeah.
But it wasn't in. I'm just, I don't want
Right.
no trouble or nothing
Well,
like
no,
that.
no, and I mean, the more information I get, the better. And like I said, and I've told them, I'm like, if
I'll tell you what, you might ought to get a hold of John and let him give you his information or tell you what he was been told or whatever, because he's the one to
Yeah.
know. But it wasn't in the city, I know that.
yeah.
Well, shouldn't the zoning people not have no record, or they asked to be in the city and not have no paperwork?
I don't know.
Well, okay, so the way I understand the process, the way the state in 1980 sent every mayor of every city in the state a map and said, mark on this map where your city limits are. And in 1980, that was supposed to be the official city limits boundary. Okay? And what I've been told is they typically use the state transportation map for the city at the time. So the one that Paul Nesbitt, who did the zoning map for us in 2018, the one he has is a 1979 map, which would make sense. If they did it in 1980, they would have used the 79 map. And now, he said there's a big issue with that because they sent those to the mayors, and the mayor at the time marked on that map, sent it back to Frankfurt. Frankfurt said, this is the city limits. And they based it on that. And supposedly after that, anytime there was an annexation or anything like that, they were supposed to send the annexation to Frankfurt. Frankfurt would change the boundary based on that. Now, we all know how that works.
Yippee.
There were annexations that didn't get sent to Frankfurt. There were annexations that did that weren't done right. There were annexations that were done that might have been challenged in court and then didn't happen. And so boundaries, even what they did in 1980, that doesn't necessarily mean that was 100% accurate. But they were supposed to, at that point, that was their starting point, and from that point on, they were supposed to keep good records and blah, 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 blah. So, the 1979 map that they used to create the zoning map shows that line. All the survey maps that I can find of the city since then that were supposed to establish and correct boundaries and all that show that line. 95, 2013, I can't remember all of them for sure. And then, like I said, like if you look at the FEMA map, it goes back to the 79 map, the FEMA floodplain maps. The current transportation maps reflect that 79 map. They didn't change it even to match the survey. But, you know, what Paul told me was that some cities, the mayor just drew in a circle. Said, this is our city, which wasn't, you know. I don't think that really happened here. I think they did it a little better than that, because ours actually looks like something somebody would have done with survey lines. But anyway, so what I'm having trouble is figuring out what legally happened between 1980 and now. Because in 1980, that line was established as the city limits. And so it would either, that's the official city limits boundary unless there was some kind of action taken to take it out of the city, or there was a court case that determined that it was out of the city. I mean, it has to be some legal action took place to have taken it out.
What I'm saying though, Chris, that today looks nothing like it did in 79 or 80. I mean, you wouldn't even all, where those ponds and all up through here would have been nothing but woodland.
Right.
You know, I mean, you come around Breckenridge Street there, and there was nothing. I mean, you couldn't even. The road was so growed up, you couldn't see nothing on either side of it. So, well, other than the house that's still there in that little curve, that was there. That was Herschel McIntosh still lived there, I think.
Yeah.
Or you did.
So I've been trying to. I've talked to Paul Nisbet, who, like I said, did the zoning map for us. I've talked to Shane at the ad, who did the Bluegrass ad are the ones that provided the data to the Secretary of State in 2004 when they updated a lot of that and did it with GIS and did more digital mapping. And Shane's talked to me about the process and how they did that, and you know, it was based on the surveys and it was based on the old maps and all that, and how their methodology, how they got it to that point. Because I'm like, you know, I see two problems, because there is a map that shows it like this, and there's a map that shows it like this. But I think
the map,
this is just a mapping error. Somebody just mapped that wrong, because that doesn't show up anywhere else at all. But that yellow line is pretty consistent with all the other maps I've been able to find. But like I said, like, you know, if they come to me and say, what do we need to do? That's what I have to go by. I don't have any other documentation at this point. They don't like the answer I gave them at all. They're all upset about it. But I'm like, and I'll keep looking. Like, if I can find a court case, that would be great, because then that would.
well, you know, like I say, I do know that John owned it for several years before he sold it. I guess it'd be 3 years. I didn't know couldn't remember it been that long. But he was not in the city. He was never in the city.
Well, the city ought to have to produce records.
Yes, sir.
If they rezoned it.
But that's what I'm saying. I have records that show it in the city. I don't have records that show it out of the city. Now, if there is a record that it's out of the city, we can get the maps updated if they're
No,
wrong.
what I'm saying, they ought to have records where it was rezoned, have paperwork to support that. You see what I'm saying?
Right, but
If he wanted it in the city, he had to put in the papers and stuff, he wanted to rezone, right? And if that's the way it
well,
works,
if you annex into the city, but what I'm saying is that in 1980, I think there was some legislation that basically said, we're going to have you show us what the boundary is, and from this point forward, that's going to be the official boundary. And then after that point, you would either had to have annexed or been taken out through an official action. But at that point, they took wherever they drew the line. That's where they said that's the official boundary. And that was state legislature. That wasn't just local people saying, "Hey, here's where we're going to show our boundary." That was the state saying, "We're going to establish where the city limits boundaries are, and from this point forward, then it has to go through these processes, the annexation or whatever."
I think that's odd that they would draw the city limit in, but, I mean, divide a property like that in the city, well, why would they do that?
I don't think that property was that small then.
Where does that property go? Does it go to the pink section now?
The parcel is this, basically. The pink
Oh, I
is the
see that
zone.
line
The
now.
pink is, this was, like I said, this line is wrong.
Yeah,
And so I've drawn the zoning for that part of the city, to the city limits boundary that I had. But this dotted line there is wrong. It's not. I can't remember where I got it from. I may have downloaded it off. Maybe got that one from the ad. I can't remember. I mean,
They used to be.
it's a mess.
They used to be a state marker. Down in there somewhere around one of them culverts. That's what I'm saying, it was not in the city, it was in the county.
would it be legal to redo that?
Redo it.
Rezone it, or is that what they're wanting?
They want to split the property for financing reasons. But now, the other thing is, jurisdictionally, they would have to go through the city to subdivide it, even if it was all in the county, because within 5 miles of the city limits boundary, they're supposed to go through the city. But that aside, they're trying to get their financing straightened out, and they want to create 2 parcels out of one. And what I told them when they said that, I'm like, well, it looks to me like the city limits split it. You're going to need to get a surveyor involved, show where that is, and I would recommend you draw the line on the boundary as opposed to having a parcel that's part in and part out of the city.
So that would put the
And then-
Paley part in, part out.
Well, in theory, but then that just opened a whole can of worms. So, but I told them, I said, I can't snap my finger and put you in, and I can't snap my finger and take you out. It's not me making a decision. It's me looking at the record saying this is what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, I've done a lot of research trying to figure out one way or the other, and everything I come back to is that's where the boundary is. So, if I can find something that took it out, great. If I can't, from my standpoint, to make a determination, I have to say that's where the city limits boundary is.
But the thing of it is, if they can't prove it's actually in the city, then what are they gonna do? You see what I'm saying? I mean, you can't ask us to do something if it's not in the city.
Yeah, I know. Well, now, jurisdictionally, we can, as far as the plat process goes, we do have the jurisdiction as far as subdividing the property. Now, to make them rezone it or any of that, until we straighten this out, no. I mean, I would say yes, that they have to do it based on what I see. Now, if they say they're not going to, then it's, the normal process would be, okay, well, how much do we want to fight it? Do we really want to go to court with it? Or, I don't know. It's just a mess. I'd be more than happy if I could find something proving that it's not in the city.
I mean, I don't, I could ask John or you contact him, but now, I know they've been down here several times through the years, and I know Gary's been here several times. They're gonna say all that went through there, that was a Sherman Hall farm. And that all went around through there, and it was not in the city, it was in the county.
What's the map show on Gary's property?
Well, depends on which map you look at.
Oh,
But
really?
the survey, the Blake Adams survey showed Gary's, let me go somewhere else where this actually, I can move around on it. That one. I should have a mouse. It'd be so much easier. So the surveys, which I feel like are probably the best record. There we go. Okay. So the survey shows the line coming across here to Gary's boundary, and then it dips down and cuts over and follows the creek, which Gary even said front part of the property was in the city. He said that. So the most consistent and what the survey reflects is the line comes across, comes down across to the creek and follows the creek up. And I feel like that is probably, from a legal standpoint, the best, easiest to argue. Now, the 79 map that I think they based the boundary on shows it come all the way across to here and pick it all up. But I don't know if they just drew the line and didn't take into consideration. I don't know. I'm not going to argue that with Gary at all because it's pointless, and that's not even the issue. They sent Gary the map that I sent them, and Gary came down really mad, and I'm like, it didn't have anything to do with Gary. When he got really riled up and upset. But anyway.
I served under Charlie Childers and under Mars and under Virginia and all them, and they'd never come up while I was there. I attended all the meetings and so forth. It never did come up. I've always known it to be a farmland.
That's right, that's what I'm saying. It was never in
The
the
state
city.
can tell you anything they want to, I don't believe it.
Yeah, I'm saying, I really don't know what they're gonna do, because if it's not in the city, I mean, they're gonna have to prove it was in the city, then it was in the city all these other years when they said it wasn't in the city, so.
Hold on.
Before you can get a loan, or they're gonna prove something, I'm sure that they're gonna want us in the city, won't they, Kevin? I mean, that's.
Well, see, and the appraiser is the one that contacted me. It wasn't the buyers or the sellers. It was the appraiser who's in the middle trying to sort it all out and asked me. And so I told her, and then she said, well, will you tell them? And I said, yeah, then it's just, yeah. But like I said, I mean, I have to give them answers based on what I see, and that's what I see. And I've tried to see anything else I can, and I keep coming back to pretty consistently that property's split.
Okay, let's go, we've hashed over that now,
All right.
let's go on. We can talk about that all night
We could.
and still not settle anything.
I know. Well, anyway, my whole point of that was to let you all know. This is going on in the background.
The research to you and.
You're gonna have to do a lot of research, huh?
I've been doing a lot.
Yeah,
Probably 10 hours into it at this point.
okay.
I'll let it go at one thing. They knew, the people that bought that though knew that it wasn't in the city when they bought it.
Well, that's what she keeps saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm ready, number 3.
Okay, I guess we're gonna let Chris give his monthly report then.
I go through it if you want me to, or if you all just want to look at it.
I already read it.
Okay. The only thing, let's see. Trying to think if there's anything that stands out. We've been trying to stay on the airport project to make sure that we get a sidewalk with the new street. That was earlier in the month, or actually I think the end of Thanksgiving, or the end of November, after Thanksgiving. And the iWork system's pretty much we're out of the implementation part. It's all live. If you go on the city's webpage now, you can get permits through the website, renew a business license, file a code complaint, all that. I haven't promoted that yet. I haven't started telling people they can do it. I'm kind of waiting like first year to start saying, okay, now in 2024, these are the things you can do. Because we just like last week wrapped up the implementation, getting all the bugs out of it and all that. So, but I've had a couple people go through the website and renew a business license and stuff like that. So we're pretty much right at the starting point of that, being able to do everything through, well, most things through the website that way. I think the only other thing is with the tourism stuff, I've been dealing a lot with the transient room tax and business licenses for short-term rental. We've been talking a whole lot about that. But I did give Chelsea all the information on the short-term rentals, and so she's got all that now, so she can contact people about business licenses and all that.
Is Chelsea back on the tourism thing?
She is under contract. No.
Yeah. She's under contract.
She's not hired full-time. She's working on a contract basis, doing marketing. Correct.
So do we have a full-time one?
No. Not at the moment. Otherwise, I think everything's just kind of, I don't think there's anything really out of the ordinary otherwise. Oh, the other thing I should bring up, and I should have brought this up with the Board of Adjustment too, the House Bill 55 training requirements. I need to find out, make sure who, I know
Yeah, I've got to go.
you need to do it, and Eric and Ruth and Tom need to do it on Board of Adjustment. There's one coming up, but it's in Munfordville, like January or February. So I'll look and see when I can find, but yeah, we need to make sure everybody's current on that. It's, I think, is it like every other year?
It's every 2 years,
Every 2
8 hours.
years.
Yeah.
So
They
it's usually
all
just
pay that.
it's a 1 day training, and the city would pay for it and pay for if there's any travel, and
Have you been to Munfordville?
not in a long time. And when I saw Munfordville, I just
Hart
thought,
County, way down the road.
yeah, I just thought that's like Pluto.
Hart, yep.
Really?
It's Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
It's a ways.
It's a pretty good haul.
So I don't know. We might want to hold out for one that's closer. I went to the one in Mount Sterling back in the spring, and it wasn't too bad. Munfordville's a long way.
I could have went to that when we had that, I had that, some kind of meeting we was having here on the election night.
Yeah. So I don't know. But anyway, I need to not forget to keep up with that and make sure that I get all the new members to get to that in the coming year. Well, probably in like the next 6 months or so. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because I'll forget again. But that's all I've got really.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Take a vote.
Aye.
All right.
And then we
You
did.
all have a